Hungarian. She answered me Hungarian. So he came over. He said, "Okay, so you found out, so you know that who I am probably, and nothing you can do about it now." And yeah, so this, but I'm sorry, I forgot the name of a very famous person. There are other Nazis were there, and they always used to taunt me and ask me where are your parents, and I used to ask them. I told them, "Oh, they're very rich people in New York. They live there." I want to hurry on because it's already a long time and we're all tired.
How long were you
I
in
arrived
Venezuela?
in Venezuela, and my uncle waited for me by the boat, and he was very good to me. And everything was okay. I was offered right away a high position in business. Because they all liked me, but there was no Jewish life going on there. And I saw right away it's not for me. And I wanted out from there. And I was there for about 8 or 9 months, and then I came to Toronto. In Toronto, I was with my uncle. I think I was 2 weeks before. I sent him a telegram to the boat, but I expected him in Toronto. The Uncle Shia and Auntie Yenti, whom I mentioned before, and who gave me a home in Toronto till I got married. They really looked after me like their own son. They still live here till 120. We enjoy them very much. That's how I arrived to Toronto. I didn't know even what Toronto is. Just an interesting bypass. I don't know whether it's even try to mention, but just to see how people from what we went through, and yet we are able to cope with different situations. I had that uncle that I mentioned that lived in Budapest, Herschel Lebovich, lived now in Canada, and he gave me an address Metava. And I thought for sure it means Ottawa. I never heard Metava, so I went to Ottawa and I looked for that address. I never found that address. Here is a young person, doesn't speak English a word. I did speak Spanish perfect. I spoke French, but no English. So Montreal, where I landed, I was okay because I could communicate in French. But then I came to Ottawa and was looking for that street, and then there was no, and he lived in Metava. So I took a train and came to Toronto, went into a hotel, and didn't know again, didn't speak a word of English, yet somehow we survived. I make this fast, although this is a fascinating story by itself, but sometimes I will tell it to my children separately. And Toronto, I decided to go in teaching. I had my training for that, because as I said in Czechoslovakia, I had my training for that. And the reason I went in for education, although from my father's side, they were mostly business people. From my mother's side, they were mostly rabbis. Nobody wasn't teaching. Because I felt that each child that I help along, even the smallest way, is a victory over the thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of children that were killed. Brutally murdered without any reason. So I think this is, every time I feel that a Jewish child goes out, is sort of, that's my revenge, which I couldn't take physically. That's my revenge against the Nazis. I enjoy tremendously what I'm doing. I'm grateful that I wasn't tempted to go into business, because I was offered many times to go into business. I don't feel that I missed out on anything. I have what I need, and I appreciate, and I'm very thankful to God that He led me in that direction.
Is that what you feel then? Is your war experiences led you to even more service of Hashem?
Definitely. I think definitely, because I could see the fact that I survived so many incidents where death was really assured, and I didn't go into them so many because I just spoke in generalities. But every day that you survive the beatings, that you survive the lining up, if you didn't line up properly, if you forgot your number, that's a lot of time you were tired. That, you know what it means to get up every morning, day in and day out, 6 days a week, and the 7 days they found something else to do with us. I never mentioned that incident with the Ukrainian SS when they marched us up and down for fun on Sunday. There were steps, so some of the guards were standing on top of the steps, and some were standing down. So they chased us up, and two sides were standing SS with their knives out, bayonets out, just enough for a person to go by. And that was their play on Sunday. So they chased us up the stairs, and then those chased us down. Obviously, you fell on the bayonets, and we were bleeding. So I'm just saying, each these things that we went through, can you just imagine, just picture it for yourself for a minute, that type of fun. And they were laughing, they laughed at that, and this cursing, even now when I hear somebody talking loud or shouting, I shudder. I can't take. I speak quietly, and I like when people talk quietly because they're shouting. But just imagine having fun, seeing people getting stabbed and bloodied and so on. It's beyond me.
What can we learn from all this?
That we have to be alert, and we can't take anything for granted. If in these days, when there are still people who went through, and you read in the papers that so-called professors, so-called intelligent people say there's no such thing as a Holocaust. And Holocaust became so cheap, everything is a Holocaust, every small, and I say to myself, my God, is that it? Is that what you mean by a Holocaust? That's not it. Just imagine one person in a family dies. What a tragedy it is. Now imagine brothers, sisters, uncles, grandfathers, everybody dead. And for what? You can't even explain it. I thought the tragedy is enormous. I know there are a lot of bad things happen, but you can't. Hunger in Somalia is not the same as a Holocaust. It's a hunger. It's bad. It's terrible. But it's not the Holocaust that we know, where people were planned and executed with a plan, like you plan to slaughter 10 cattle today and 15 cattle tomorrow. That's how they planned it out. So how can you compare that? It's a sin even to mention it. So when I see now there are people denying that this happened, and people are going on without good people, without standing up and shouting aloud from the rooftops. People awaken. That's not allowed to be happening. That's not allowed to be happening. And that's why I'm so addicted to papers and to news. In my house comes in the Time, the Newsweek, the Maarif, because I always try to pick up Hazvisham if something happens somewhere. I want to know, is there suffering in the world? Is there suffering for Jews? If I hear something what's happening in Israel, I feel with them. I have friends that passed away, I still mention them. Every human being means to me everything. That's what I learned from the concentration camp.
What year did you actually get to Toronto?
When I got in
What year? Yeah.
1950, August 1950.
And when did you get married?
I got married in 1955 to a wonderful, wonderful woman.
What's
and
her
I think
name?
another Bluma Luria. As a matter of fact, she's a relative of mine, related to me, but I never knew her. And again, here I see God's hand in it, because what happened is that at that time, as she came from Israel to visit my grandfather, the Chimperuf, to New York, I didn't have yet papers to cross the border. And I never went without papers. I'm a very straight yakker. And somehow I borrowed somebody's papers and I went across the border, and there where I met her, and there where my aunt and the grandfather made a shidduch between us. And I'm always grateful, because she's really devoted to me. She really lives for her family. She always like this, and I'm glad.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 children.
What are their names?
Actually 4 children, because 2, the one they married, I consider them children too.
Who are your actual biological children?
Biological children is my oldest daughter is Brindle, named after my mother, and a son, Mayer.
And how many grandchildren do you have?
I have 8 grandchildren. And let me just add here, I'm very proud that I'm only regret I don't have more children whom I could call by the names Ben-Zion and Yisroel and Fegi, because each time I say Mayer, I know he has all the qualities and all the attributes of my father Mayer, who was a very, very man, and my daughter Brindle has all the qualities. She's a sensitive person.
All of these things, details that you've told me today, have you shared them with your children?
In the beginning, I wasn't able to share with them, but slowly, the last few years, I did start to open up a little bit. But there's so many things still I didn't tell them, because somehow something's holding me back. I'm always afraid, the same as it changed to me, my happy childhood, that something can change again and I'm going to be unhappy. So I like to be sometimes by myself a little bit.
So
And I like to share with them a little bit more. And I want to talk again. I must talk a little bit longer about my children. They're wonderful. Meir is Knein O'Hara, a very successful surgeon and a doctor and a Talmud Chochem. I'm more proud of it he's a Talmud Chochem than he's a doctor. Talmud Chochem means a learned person, and he still keeps everything, and this makes me so proud. And my daughter, she lives with the Shoah, with the Churban. I don't like to use the word Holocaust, as I said, because it's became cheapened. She is so attuned to that there's a book. Sometimes I'm already worried about it. She goes around and she lectures, and she went also into education because she's a tremendous teacher too. But my daughter-in-law Ruti, she's a very, very bright person. She brings up her children and she does a lot of chesed. And my son-in-law Eli. And my grandchildren, I didn't say anything about Eli, but he's a wonderful person, good-natured, very well liked by everybody who ever meets him. My grandchildren, the eldest one is Aviva, Hindi. We call her Aviva. I wish we would call her Hindi because my Baba Hindi, I didn't talk enough about her. I hope I didn't sin against her because she was something special. And she is special, Aviva Hindi, very bright. She's now 19 years old. She lived 2 years in Eretz Israel too, in Israel. She went to seminar, and now she goes to Torah College. Then I have Dov, he goes to Yeshiva, Yeshua Dov. Wonderful boy, wonderful, lovely, lovely person, lovely, lovely person. And then the youngest one, Yehuda, who speaks a terrific Hebrew, very bright. The mayor's children, I have Elisheva, the oldest girl, beautiful, smart, warm. The next, he has a son, Yitzchak. We always call him Yitzchak HaLevi, because we Leviim. And the next one is Esther, and the next one is Yaakov, David Yaakov, and the youngest one is Shoshana. I love them all. They're my dearest children.
Rabbi Adler, do you often think of these experiences in your mind?
There isn't a day that I don't think of it. There isn't a day. I don't let on. People don't know it. But that's why I like to be by myself a lot of times. And a lot of times I read, my mind wanders off. But it's always in my mind. That's what they robbed from me away, and I will never forgive them. I had a happy childhood, and I was taking this away. And especially, I never had a chance to be fulfilling the mitzvah of kibbut av v'ein, and I'm missing that very much.
Do you ever dream of revenge, physical revenge, not just teaching children to keep them from straying, but to physically kill any Germans or Poles or Ukrainians?
No, I'm not a violent person, and sometimes I'm not. I wish all these people would be discovered, and I can see them ashamed in front of the world, and to say, look what you did, look, we're animals, what did you do? That's as far as I would go. If I dream a lot of time, what would I do if I would catch that Obersturmführer, that wolf? I would make him in front, I would gather all the people in front and say, see this human being who parades like a human being, he's not a human being. He's that's type of revenge I dream of.
Are you full of hate? Do you feel hate against these animals?
I do feel hate, yes. I do feel hate. And I feel more hate of people who try to deny it and to excuse it and to find excuse. There's no excuse for what they did, no excuse whatsoever.
Is there any last words you want to say?
I just want to say, I'm not pretending that I have the wisdom and that I should say a word that will last, but as far as I'm concerned, I want to tell people nothing to take for granted. Have emunah, have betochen. It's very important. That helps you through a lot of things. I know this might sound shablon, but it is not. If you really...
What's shablon?
Shablon means like superficial.
Oh.
It's not superficial. It is if you feel it like this. But mainly, do not take it for granted. And if you see somewhere an appearance, an anti-Semitic appearance, react strongly. Don't act. Don't act. Somebody else will take care. Nobody else will take unless you will take care of it. So you have to be involved. You have to be involved in community life. You have to be involved with other people. If you stay only for yourself, withdrawn, that's going to spell a lot of trouble.
Rabbi Adler, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce my wife. Basically, I didn't have a chance to say to her, thank you for marrying me. Because each time I'll say that, I cry. You know, since I cried already so much, now it doesn't matter a few more tears. But she has always been by my side. She's more than my wife. I like her family, by the way.
Could you tell us your name, please?
Her name is Bluma Adler.
And how are you related to her before?
We are related. The mothers were sisters, but I never met her. She was in Israel and I was in Europe. I didn't even know that she was around. And I'm glad that I met up with her.
All I want to say is that I'm very, very grateful and thankful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the Almighty, for sparing my husband's life, because he is the only survivor of his entire family, and to be given the chance to continue the life and to bring up such precious, wonderful generations that those evil Nazis tried to wipe out. Thanks God that they didn't succeed. As a matter of fact, this year, being the 50th anniversary of my husband's liberation, he felt very strongly to mark this milestone in his life with a gathering and a l'chaim in the school for the entire school staff. And for this occasion, I wrote him a poem, which I'd like to read. I'd like to tell you a story. It's not too long, you needn't worry. The story is about the 9th of May, why it's such a special day, why I agreed to take the little trouble and to bake just some cookies and a cake and a l'chaim get-together to make. It was 50 years ago today that the dark clouds began to break away. It's 50 years ago today that the sun dared to send a ray. After weeks and months of brutal pain, when your father was shipped off to the Ukraine, your mother, sister, and the rest were packed in a cattle train, never ever to be seen again. The Nazis were so cruel, so savage, so inhumane. Their hurt was impossible to sustain. You stood defenseless at the selection, your baby brother clinging with affection. The evil manglers pointed right in your direction, and baby brother to the left, in spite of his objection. Thus he was snatched away from your protection. You were taken to Auschwitz concentration camp, where you suffered from hunger, the cold, and the damp. You saw misery, grief all around you, just because you are a Jew. Torture, torment grew and grew, just because you are a Jew. But you survived it after all. God did not let you fall. This miracle was in no way small, as you no doubt very well recall. Yes, this was 50 years ago today. The Almighty finally stopped doomsday. That's the day of your liberation, the start of healing the laceration. This is why we came here today, on this special 9th of May, to praise God and to express our deepest thankfulness.
Okay, we have here a picture that I want to identify some people. If we start in the middle with the lady holding the baby there, that's my grandmother, Yehudis, the Chimpa Rebbetzin, as she's known. In the middle...
Who's the baby?
The baby is my sister Fegi. In the middle you have two ladies. One is Uncle Gito, that I mentioned to you before, the one that came for me with the taxi. The other one is my wife's, Bluma's mother, my aunt.
That's two ladies standing in the rear, you mean?
Yeah.
And what is
Standing.
the aunt's, and what's the aunt's name?
Standing. The aunt's name is Esther. Esther and Gito. Esther is her mother,
Okay.
Gito is the sister. Then you have to the left, they're sitting with the baby in the hand, that's my mother. And the baby is my brother Ben Zion. And sitting on the little chair, that's myself. Standing to next to my mother there is Uncle Herschel. Sitting with a round cap there is Uncle Shia.
On the far left.
On the far left. Now moving to the right, that's Uncle Adler, whom I mentioned to you that I met in Budapest. And sitting on the chair with a round cap is Uncle Shuli, that I mentioned quite a bit about him in Venezuela, when I was there.
Do you know approximately when this picture was taken?
This picture was taken in the 30s sometime.
And where?
I don't know.
What was the
I don't know.
occasion for this picture?
Maybe a visit to us or us to them, I don't know. This is my grandfather, my Zaidi, the Chimperuf, and this was taken in the beginning in the 50s.
What's his
in
name?
New York. His name is Moshe David Esteucher, who wrote a lot of Sforim. That's my mother, Brindle, and was taken in the late 20s. I think it was taken in Arad. That's my father, Meir, and this was taken when he was a chosen, again, also in the late 20s. This is my brother Yisrael, my youngest brother, the one I was holding in my hand in Auschwitz. He was done in 42 something, 40, in Munkac. This is my sister, my only sister, Fegi. I don't know where I was taking the picture, I don't know when. She's about 8 years there. To the left, to the right is my mother, in the middle is my aunt, Shoshi, who got married, and she was taken to concentration camp and died while she was expecting a child. The other one is another aunt, the wife of Elia, who was died in Auschwitz.
What's her name?
Reisel.
And your mother's name?
My mother's name is Brindle. This picture is of my wife Bluma and of myself at our wedding night, May 9th, 1955, in the beginning when we started to rebuild our home.
Where?
In Brooklyn, New York. This is my lovely daughter, Chaya Brandl, who's lucky to have my mother's name, and her lovely husband, Eli Sales.
When was she born?
She was born on May 15, 1956.
Is this the wedding
in
picture?
Toronto. This is a wedding picture.
When was it?
The wedding was also May 15th, actually. May 26th, sorry. May 26th in Shara Shemaim Synagogue.
In what year?
In what year? 1975. This is the picture of my son and his lovely wife Ruti, whom we all love very much. They married in 1982 in Brooklyn, actually in New York, in the Hilton.
And your son's name?
And my son's name is Meir, or now it's better known as the famous Dr. Meir. This is my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, Aviva Hinde Sales. She was born on April 28, 1957, and she's there 18 years old.
50? I think we said 76. She was born in 1976,
Oh,
right?
76. Oh, right. Oh, what am I talking about? Her mother was born at that time.
Right.
76. Sorry, I made a mistake. This is my grandson, Yoshua Dovi, who is, this is his bar mitzvah picture. He was born in 78, and Toronto. He was born in Toronto. This is my grandson Yehuda David, almost a Sabrala. He was born in Long Beach, New York, in 1989.
So these last three children are your daughters?
Are my daughter's children. These are my daughter's children. I love them all very much. This is my granddaughter Elisheva Hannah Adler, who was born in 1982. She just became Bas Mitzvah now, and she's a very bright, lovely girl. This is my grandson Yitzchak Adler, or as you like to be called, Yitzchak Halevi, and we love you very much, Yitzchak.
When was he born?
He was born, I don't know, right.
How old is he?
He was born in Miami. He was born in Miami, how long ago? Okay. He is born, this is my grandson, he's born in July 10th, 85. This is my granddaughter Esther Adler, who was born in 87. And we love you very much, Esther. This is my grandson Yaakov David, who's 5 years and a half. David, we love you very much. You're a very clever boy. This is my granddaughter Shoshana. Shoshana, I like you very much, as you say. She is 2.5 years old. This is my lovely children, Meir's children, Elisheva Adler to the left. Next to her is Esther. Next to her is Yaakov David. And next to her is Yitzchak. And I love you all very much. You're very bright and lovely children, as all of my grandchildren. Thank you very much. I love them all very, very much.